The 政治正确小彩虹 are out of control. Since Hamas attacked Israel 3 weeks ago, people have been canceled, left and right. Words have been weaponized. People have lost their jobs. And most importantly, people have lost their lives. And if you pay close attention, you can see a civil war may be coming in America. This is 政治正确 2.0. On the Israel side, you have Gal Gadot, the famous model and actress, and most importantly, an IDF veteran, who, after the attacks on Israel, made this Instagram post. I stand with Israel. You should too. The world cannot sit on the fence when these horrific acts of terror are happening. She then later made a post on Twitter. My heart breaks. My country is at war. I worry for my family, my friends. I worry for my people. This is a vicious cycle that has been going on for far too long. Israel deserves to live as a free and safe nation. Our neighbors deserve the same. I pray for the victims and their families. I pray for this unimaginable hostility to end. I pray for our leaders to find the solution so we could live side by side in peace. I pray for better days. This seems fairly reasonable, right? She's supporting her country. She feels bad for what's happening to the victims on both sides and hopes that both sides can live safe and free. According to the Xiao Cai Hong on the internet, this was not good enough. Her comment section got lit up.
Grew up adoring Wonder Woman and was happy to see her on screen. It showed me how powerful women could be. Now she showed me that they could also be villains. I don't claim her as my Wonder Woman anymore.
Do your neighbors have a name? Perhaps Israelites ought to stop stealing Palestinian territory, or even better, give the land back. Perhaps then there would be peace. Why are these types of tweets came across my timeline? Hey ma'am, you're wrong. Israel isn't at war with Palestine, but your country started it first. You can't even say the word Palestinians on your tweet. LOL, she always makes self-contradictory statements. Hashtag Free Palestine.
But it wasn't just Gal. Jordan Peele, the famous writer, director, and actor from Key and Peele and 逃出绝命镇, signed a letter to the president pleading with Biden to help free the Israeli hostages. And Black Twitter lit his ass up. Jordan Peele signing on to a Zionist propaganda letter while his fellow black filmmakers fight for Palestine. Bruh, are you in the second place? Even your white wife is on the right side of history. I finally read the stupid letter. For one thing, cannot believe it is repeating these lies after they were debunked to death and Biden himself walked it back. A revolting propaganda piece. How are these people all this deranged? Jordan Peele? Shame on your entire existence. Now, you might be thinking,那就是好莱坞啊，小彩虹啊. And besides, all these trolls are online, right?
No.
They're coming for everyday people in real life, yo. Pro-Palestine demonstrations have gotten out of control, with people justifying the attack and some even openly supporting Hamas and celebrating the attack. And some of these people are from the LGBTQ community. One famous tech guy dared to call them out with this statement. I welcome the LGBTQ community to go to Gaza. Let them bring their flags. Let them go to Gaza and let them fight for human rights there. And let's see what happens. They're going to get lynched and murdered. But it ain't just the alphabet people, yo. BLM Chicago and BLM LA both released these shocking statements. This is all. That is it. I stand with Palestine. And as you can see, the picture they posted features a paraglider with a Palestinian flag. I wonder what that could mean.
Are you serious?
Then, after receiving a bit of backlash online, they doubled down and followed up with this post. Anything is possible. Never did we think we'd be apologizing to Zionists, and we certainly never imagined they would organize for us. Free Palestine, free us all. And then they doubled out again. Zionists, we know we hurt your feelings yesterday. We do sincerely apologize. And y'all are going super slow with really basic, boring, not clever racism, Zionism, and violence. And you are just organizing people for us. Are you missing the more you act up, the more followers we get? As the world is faced with deep questions about self-determination, as we all desire and pray for a world of peace, we must stand unwaveringly on the side of the oppressed. When a people have been subject to decades of apartheid and unimaginable violence, their resistance must not be condemned, but understood as a desperate act of self-defense. Now, it doesn't just stop here with statements online. There have been multiple instances of people caught in multiple cities across America tearing down the posters of Israeli hostages and throwing them in the trash or on the ground.
2 South Florida men tearing down flyers containing information about civilians who've been kidnapped in Israel by the Hamas terrorists.
Why are you tearing them down? Innocent people were kidnapped.
What school do you go to? What school do you go to? What school do you go to, miss?
We all supported BLM, but you know, it's nice to know that what comes around goes around.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious, isn't it? I remember to support you guys next time around.
In addition to that, a report released just a few days ago shows that since the attack earlier this month, anti-Semitic incidents have increased by 400% in America. That includes hate messaging and even physical assault. And as a result, Jewish Americans are now buying guns and enrolling in firearm training courses to protect themselves. They're legitimately frightened for their lives. But this is not just one-sided, yo. Gigi Hadid, the famous half-Palestinian supermodel and former girlfriend of Leonardo DiCaprio, made this heartfelt post after the attacks. My thoughts are with all those affected by this unjustifiable tragedy. I have deep empathy and heartbreak for the Palestinian struggle and life under occupation. I also feel responsibility to my Jewish friends to make it clear, as I have before, while I have hopes and dreams for Palestinians, none of them include the harm of a Jewish person. The terrorizing of innocent people is not in alignment with and does not do any good for the Free Palestine movement. The idea that it does has fueled a painful, decades-long cycle of back-and-forth retaliation, which no innocent civilian, Palestinian or Israeli, deserves to be a casualty of. And after this sincere, heartfelt message, just like Al Gadot, she received a lot of backlash. But not just from Xiao Caihong on the internet, but surprisingly from the most unsuspecting Xiao Caihong ever, the State of Israel. Their official Instagram account saw her post and responded with this. Have you been sleeping this past week? Are you just fine turning a blind eye to Jewish babies being butchered in their homes? Your silence has been very clear about where you stand. We see you. They then took it even further and rewrote her statement to their satisfaction. There is nothing valiant about Hamas's massacre of Israelis. Condemning Hamas for what it is, ISIS, is not anti-Palestine, and supporting Israelis in their fight against barbaric terrorists is the right thing to do. And soon after they posted this, Gigi, her sisters, her mother, and her father all received multiple death threats. It got so bad that they had to change their phone numbers multiple times and are even considering consulting with the FBI. And again, 不只是一人而已哦，还有学生要被 cancel 嘞。A group of Harvard students who are all members of various Muslim and Pakistani student associations all signed off on a public statement that reads as follows. We, the undersigned student organizations, hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all the unfolding violence. For the last 2 decades, millions of Palestinians in Gaza have been forced to live in an open-air prison. In the coming days, Palestinians will be forced to bear the full brunt of Israel's violence. Israeli violence has structured every aspect of Palestinian existence for 75 years. From systemized land seizures to routine airstrikes to military checkpoints, Palestinians have been forced to live in a state of death, both slow and sudden. We call on the Harvard community to take action to stop the ongoing annihilation of Palestinians. Well, it turns out that several of those students who signed off on that letter were about to graduate and already had job offers lined up at one of the biggest law firms in New York. But once they heard about that letter, they canceled their offer. These statements are simply contrary to our firm's values, and we thus concluded that rescinding these offers was appropriate in upholding our responsibility to provide a safe and inclusive work environment for all Davis Polk employees. Safe and inclusive. That sounds like DEI speak to me.
You're goddamn right.
And just where the anti-Semitic crimes have increased 400%, the FBI and Department of Homeland Security reported a 388% increase in anti-Muslim hate crimes, including harassment, vandalism, and most recently, it claimed the life of a 6-year-old boy.
It's fresh evidence that the FBI is right to fear that the carnage from the Israeli-Hamas war could spill over here at home.
A 71-year-old man who was the landlord to his Muslim tenants stabbed the 6-year-old boy and his mother. The boy, unfortunately, did not make it. And the reason for the man's attack?
Simply because they were Muslim and apparently because of his pure hatred about what's happening in Israel.
Now before, when we were covering all this goofy Xiao Caihong madness, it was mostly silly celebrities saying dumb stuff.
Weird.
But people getting lightly canceled, or people on TikTok spouting nonsense, and in the worst case, a Xiao Caihong might make its way into government and try to push some goofy Xiao Caihong legislation. And the result was a widened divide between American people, but it was nothing compared to what is going on now. Now, the Xiao Caihong are coming to the real world. They are trying to cancel and delete people physically. And actions like this don't have Control Z, yo. It hasn't even been a month, and we're already to a point like this. If it doesn't get better soon, a civil war just might be around the corner. And as more of it comes through, we'll be covering it. Now, as we said before, people are choosing sides, and that is your right. But don't take this to the extreme, yo. No matter what side you choose, if someone disagrees with you, don't try to cancel them or shut them up. Engage in a civil debate. Or if you can't manage that, walk away. Or possibly, maybe it might be a good idea to just hear them out. Who knows? You just might learn something.
Now I know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!